I wanted to make a video of what we talked about this week since we have so many kids out with the flu. I didn't want them to get too far behind. So we started talking about lesson 5.1, so we're skipping chapters 3 and 4 for now, and we're going to come back to those. And chapter 5 is all about rates, ratios, and proportions, which we'll talk about later. So ratios are just a comparison between two different things. And rates are things like miles per hour and units and things like that. So example 1, and I will attach this handout to the Google Classroom so that you guys can follow along. And I did actually hand this out in class today because there were so many words and so many little charts and things, just to make life a little bit easier and smoother for us. So example 1 says that there are 45 males and 60 females in a subway car. And the subway car travels 2.5 miles in 5 minutes. And I want to find the ratio of males to females. So since males comes first, that's going to be the top of our fraction or our numerator. And since females come second, that's going to go underneath as our denominator. And now I'm going to go back and I'm going to fill in the numbers. So they said that we had 45 males and that we had 60 females. So 45 over 60, this is not simplified. 45 divided by 15 is 3. And 60 divided by 15 is 4. So 45 over 60 simplified is actually 3 over 4. So when I'm asking for my ratio of males to females, I can say that that's 3 over 4, or I can write it like this, or I can write it with words like this. All 3 of these are proper ways to express ratios. If this happened to be improper here, we would not want to convert it to a mixed number because that would take away from the comparison. So ratios, that's a comparison. So we don't want to make that a mixed number. We want to leave it as a fraction or write it like this because we want to have 2 numbers when we're doing a ratio, not just one. Now when we talk about rates, when we're talking about a rate, we want just one number. So if this were asking for a rate, then I would want to go ahead and convert this to a decimal or to a mixed number, whatever the case may be. So part B says to find the speed, which is a rate, of the subway car. So our speed is 2.5 miles in 5 minutes. So when we talk about rates, think about when your mom's driving her car. She might drive 60 miles per hour. So our miles would go on top and our hours would go underneath, but in this case it's miles and minutes. So our minutes are going to go underneath. And now I'm going to fill in my numbers. So for miles, that's 2.5 miles. And for minutes, that's 5. And remember, I said for this one, we don't want to leave it with 2 different numbers. We want one number when we're talking about a rate. So I want to figure out how many times 5 goes into 2.5. So 5 doesn't go into 2, but it goes into 25 5 times. So 2.5 over 5 is actually 1/2. So when I'm asking for my rate, I want to say that it's half, and I want to bring my units in, half of a mile per minute. So half of a mile per minute. Okay, extra one says that there are 12 dogs and 15, this should say cats, at the pet store. Find the ratio of cats to dogs. So just like these, cats comes first. So we're going to put cats on top. And dogs is going to go underneath. And we're going to fill in our numbers. So we had 15 cats. And we had 12 dogs. I want to go ahead and I want to simplify this fraction. These are both divisible by 3. So 15 divided by 3 is 5. And 12 divided by 3 is 4. And when I'm talking about a ratio, that's a comparison of two things. So I want two different numbers. So 5 and 4. I can write it like this, or like this, or with words like this. But I don't want to make it into a mixed number or a decimal because I want that comparison, and I need two things to make a comparison. Part B wants me to find a speed, and that's a rate. So it says that you bicycle 30 blocks in 20 minutes. Find your speed. So in the previous problem, we had our miles on top and our minutes underneath. This time we're going to have our blocks on top and our minutes underneath. So for blocks we had 30. And for minutes, we had 20. We want to simplify this as much as we can. So I can cross out those zeros, and that's just 3 over 2. And 2 goes into 3 once. And I have 1 left over out of 2. So that's 1.5, or 1 5/10 as a decimal. So remember, for rates, we do want to go ahead and we want to get a mixed number here because rates are not a comparison like the previous example with ratios. So we do want to use our units when we're talking about rates. So it's 1.5 blocks per minute. All right, example 2 says the ratio table shows the cost for different amounts of artificial turf. Find the unit rate in dollars per square foot. So, any of these numbers would give me the same answer, but I'm lazy. I like to use the smallest number possible to get my unit rate. So up here, when we were talking about speed, those were rates. So we ended up wanting one number and a unit behind it. So that's what we're going to want here. So, and it's telling us that we want a unit rate in dollars per square foot. So that means dollars is going to go on top. And my square feet is going to go underneath. And again, I could use any of these sets of numbers and I would get the same thing, but I'm lazy. I like to use the smallest numbers possible. So I'm going to use these two right here. So my dollars, that's 100. And my square feet, that's 25. And when I'm looking for a rate, I want one number and I want a unit behind it. So 25 goes into 100 4 times. So 4 is my number, and I want a unit behind it. So it's $4 per square foot, or $4 per square foot.